Welcome, everybody, to the first ever episode of Around the Corn, a podcast where we talk about Bitcoin for 20 minutes or less and then go back to our regular lives. My name is Joey. I'm here with Yukon Cornelius and Around the Corn panelists. Gentlemen, it's great to be with you. We've been talking about this for some time. How are we doing this evening?
Doing great. Doing great. I think look, it's going to take some time for us to get used to this, but yeah, doing great.
Hey, I was the one who delayed this, so happy to finally be doing it.
We'll forgive you for that, panelist. We got three subjects tonight. It's an important day today because I think today we probably hit an all-time high, 118 and change. We definitely hit it last night, or in the wee hours of the morning. And there's never been a slower all-time high in terms of hype. So why don't we start there? We're talking very little retail engagement. We're talking Coinbase still ranked in the hundreds of apps on the App Store. I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly, but there's hundreds of apps more popular than Coinbase is on the App Store. Google Trends, for whatever that's worth, still not really showing any retail interest. And anecdotally, my text messages, not many about Bitcoin. I will admit, and you guys probably feel the same way, that could be a result of people just being jealous, feeling stupid, both of which they should be feeling at this moment. But I'm not getting anything. Why do people not care about this all-time high? Why don't we start with you, Cornelius?
Yeah, I just want to start by saying I think I was having fever dreams last night. I thought when I woke up this morning that I had looked at my phone, and I have automated buys set up, and I get a little message every time I do a buy. I thought that at some point during the night I woke up and saw one that said 125, that I bought one at 125. And then, I was looking through the price this morning when I actually got up, and we never even came close to 125. So I don't know what was going on last night, but having some dreams about it, I guess. In terms of retail not catching on, I'm not sure. I mean, I think there is part of it is that people think that they're maybe late. Like the higher we go, the fewer people are going to try to get on because they think that they're just getting later and later. I only had two real texts about buying it. A third one that was kind of joking about it. So yeah, it does seem a little slow, but who cares? We're here.
Who cares? Panelists.
I think people have wanted to forget about it. They thought it was over at 3K during the pandemic. They thought it was over at 16K after FTX. They might have seen it gone to 100, then it went to 75 with the tariff get-in. And they just sort of, they put it out of their mind because they don't want to be reminded that they were wrong, that they missed it, and they're a lot poorer than they would have been if they bought it. So that's the problem. They want to put it out of sight, out of mind. And the problem is when you turn on CNBC or you put on Twitter or whatever else you do, it's there. So inevitably, you're going to have to think about it again. And you're probably going to buy it at the wrong price. And you're probably going to lose money on it after the first time you buy it. And that's okay because that happened to everybody. But for the most percentage of people, they just don't even want to think about it.
What about this financial nihilism thing where kids, especially the Zoomers and maybe like younger millennials, I should say, are kind of in this boat where they have no disposable income, right? And so what are they doing? We know they're gambling on sports, DraftKings, FanDuel, busiest apps probably on the App Store, people gambling on everything from whether or not Baker Mayfield's going to have to tie his shoes between plays to whether or not it's, a 6-3 end of first quarter score. They're also gambling on shit coins. They're doing buy now, pay later on pizza and tacos, but they don't seem to be able to connect the dots on Bitcoin. They clearly don't view it as gambling because they're not in it, but they also don't view it as something that's worthy of the nihilistic behavior. Do we have an explanation for this? I'm having trouble connecting these two things in my head. I want to know what you guys think.
Well, when you gamble, you get the result almost immediately, right? If it's on a game, the game's going to happen this weekend. If you're live betting, it's going to happen within seconds or minutes, right? In Bitcoin, as our panelist was just saying here, we're probably going to have down years. We're probably going to drop again. I don't think we're going to stay above 100K.
Wow.
Indefinitely.
Wow.
I think
Write it down. Write it down. A lot of head shaking on the sides here.
Look, I know. Look, this podcast is a huge number go up podcast, but I think we're going to drop again. And people
starting the podcast a top sign in your view, Cornelius?
So say that again.
Is starting the podcast a top sign? It might be.
This is your sign to sell a little now, buy in later. No, I don't. I mean, come on. We're not going to. Maybe we'll stay above 100, but we're not. It's not like we're going to go up forever. It's just not going to happen. So, people don't want that. They want what they think is going to be a sure thing. You say they're gambling on these shit coins. People are. I don't think they're gambling. I think they legitimately think every one of those is going to go to the moon and they're going to be a millionaire. And when it gets rugged, they open class action lawsuits and just hope for pennies on the dollar back. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, Joey, I think it's exactly the right question. And I would say I totally agree with you about financial nihilism. Bitcoin is get rich slowly. It's not get rich quickly. And I think the problem is these people that are young, and it's no fault of their own. It's the system that we're living in right now. I mean, we all know it's terrible out there. It's going to be the first generation that grows up worse off than their parents. I mean, that's insane. Basically, call it quits in the country right there. It's over. We're going to get serious in this pod, but they don't want to get rich quick slowly. And they do think they've missed the boat when Bitcoin is 120, when it used to be 75K. They want something else. So that's going to be the problem to bridge that gap. And I don't think you're totally going to bridge it, but I think what you are going to get is some people that threw some money, lost money on gambling, threw some money away in shit coins. Some of them are going to find Bitcoin. And those are the people that are going to buy. They're going to buy it more. They're going to hold. And it's not going to be a huge percentage, but it's going to be enough to keep on rolling. And I saw tweets the other day, which I thought was great. It's like boomers being able to buy houses that are worth 5 million today for 50K. That's the same as us buying Bitcoin right now. And I think that's exactly right.
I love it. Closing thoughts on this one, boys, before we move on to Bitcoin treasury companies.
I think a great transition into that is that despite the lack of retail interest in Bitcoin, we're still hitting all-time highs. And I think let's just jump into the next topic. I think it has to do with all of these companies coming out and buying massive amounts of Bitcoin.
Okay, so treasury companies, they're proliferating to say the least. We're seeing, I think the last I checked, between public and private companies on NVK's bitcointreasuries.net or .io, I forget the URL. There's more than 200 companies now actively holding Bitcoin on their treasury, many of them publicly traded, some in the US, some in Canada, and some overseas. Obviously, in the case of Metaplanet, they're using a bit of a jurisdictional arbitrage to draw capital in. What do we make of this? We've had some disagreement about this privately. I personally don't care for stuff like Bitcoin per share, Bitcoin torque, Bitcoin toque, whatever this guy's saying, week to week. He's presenting to guys in suits who don't give a shit about any of this, but they sit through the presentations, they take the pictures with them, and the stock keeps going up over its strategy. What am I missing? What's good? What's bad? Panelist, you go first.
So first, I'll get this out of the way. Bitcoin torque is so fucking stupid. I don't think I've ever heard of a stupider fucking term. So Bitcoin torque sucks. BTC yield, fuck that. Hater. I like Sailor a lot, big fan, but some of the stuff he comes up with is totally whack. But look at what MicroStrategy's done. Look at the appreciation of that stock versus Bitcoin. We're a copycat world. You would be living under a fucking rock if you thought that people would see MicroStrategy and then not try to copy it. So easily a first mover like Metaplanet in Japan makes total sense. I think you're going to see first movers across the world do it, and that makes complete sense because there's a wide variety of regulations that make it more sense for people to buy the actual stock than actual Bitcoin. I think where the interesting question becomes is the little MicroStrategies, right? The Semlers of the world, the genius groups of the world, right? What's up with these companies? Why even invest in the little bros of strategy? And you don't have to invest in it if you don't want to, but I think ultimately there's a couple of things happening. They're selling equity to buy Bitcoin and they're selling debt to buy Bitcoin. If they're selling equity to buy Bitcoin, then if Bitcoin goes up 5x in 5 years, then that was a great sale for sure, especially if they have a ridiculous premium, right? And if they're selling debt to buy Bitcoin, then yeah, it's not ideal that they have debt due in several years, but if Bitcoin does what we think it's going to do, their enterprise value, their market cap, the ability to sell debt in the future is going to be so massive, it's not going to matter the debt they sold today. So to me, I'm completely fine with all these companies doing this. It's just if Bitcoin doesn't appreciate 25, 30, 10% a year, whatever, then we're going to have a problem. But I don't think we think that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Great
Cornelius.
point.
Yeah, when
Great
I
point.
don't say anything after the first guy, then you jump in after. Yeah, that's how. Yeah,
Look, I,
good.
look,
Yeah, we'll work on the cadence. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought you were the host. I thought you were going to give me a little lead.
That's
And
funny. It
I
was
don't need
giving
to-
off Max Kellerman, Tony Reali vibes. So
it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's a three-man show. You're the host. You're supposed to give me a little lead in. No, those are great points. When Bitcoin draws down, it's going to be interesting to see which of these companies can stay afloat. At some point, you need an actual product as a business, and quite frankly, I don't even really know what Strategy does. I know there's some kind of business analytics software. I don't know a single person that uses it. So it would be nice for them to have an actual business behind, the company name. But I don't mind. Like, I like that they're all buying Bitcoin. It is going to be interesting to see if, companies themselves become trade a little bit like shitcoins, and that people are going to try to get in on the next one that is announcing a buy of Bitcoin. I think that's kind of what we're already seeing, but
I say some people on this panel are trying to do the same thing.
Wow. Yeah.
Including myself.
I think all three of us are.
Tweeting every day, 6 a.m. The chat lights up with the next ticker.
But yeah, that's all. I'm going to let you two cook on this. I think you two have had a really good conversation about this in private channels. So I'm just going to let you two cook.
I'm not saying that companies shouldn't use Bitcoin as a treasury asset. They should. We think it's the best asset, right? So why wouldn't they? I think that there's been a slow realization that not only fiat debasement is, an issue, obviously, especially publicly traded companies, private entities know this. But the other realization they've made is that shareholders won't hate them for trying to avoid it with Bitcoin. That's new. It's big, and it's becoming very popular very quickly. That's okay. I'm with panelists in that when you look at stuff like torque, BTC yield, I think the Bitcoin community broadly is confused on what exactly these things mean. Sailor buying Bitcoin doesn't entitle you to any Bitcoin. Yeah, it's high beta. Yeah, it's possible you could buy, more Bitcoin with your MSTR gains than if you just bought spot Bitcoin and waited. That's fair. But it's also only possible, and this is, I think, very important for the popularity of these companies, especially when compared, by the way, to shitcoins. If you look at so let me back up a bit here. In the previous cycles, we saw miners and shitcoins really rip. Bitcoin dominance never as high as it is right now. And by the way, that's even with Tether proliferating. If you take Tether and the stables out, Bitcoin dominance is like through the roof. So it's as high as it's ever been. And you're watching shitcoins like the Holy Trinity, Ethereum, XRP, Solana struggle. None of them have made highs since Bitcoin's ripped to, I think, like probably for 8 months or 9 months at least. Ethereum's still at 2021 levels, I believe, or 2022 levels. I think it's trading around 2,700 or 2,800, something like that. So the reason that I think this brings me to the reason I think these treasury companies are so popular among retail investors, and that is the tax efficiency. I actually don't believe that retail investors care about any of the stuff they're talking about on Twitter and telling me I'm a moron for not understanding. What they're actually doing is saying, this is a better play than just holding 10% of my portfolio in Ethereum or Solana and watching that thing rip, 100x faster, harder, and higher in terms of percentage gains than Bitcoin. That's one piece. The other thing I would say about people who, again, there's this whole, whether it's the MSTR True North or other communities online talking about the importance of like the Bitcoin treasury. I would just also point out that you could ask any of these people what the price of MSTR is. They'd know within $50. Semler, they'd know within $50. GNS, it's only really me and Yukon who own that stock, but we would know within, $1. I don't know what it is. Is it $1.50, something like that?
We would know within $50 for sure.
We would know within $50 as well. And so I know the price of these stocks, but if you ask any of these guys how many Bitcoin per share MSTR has, they have no fucking idea. No fucking idea. And they can talk all they want, a big game about all this secondary, derivative, statistical, things that are supposed to be inviting and enticing for investors, but they don't know. They don't care. And I want them to admit that. I think that's my big beef with this whole run up. What do you say, panelist?
Well, first of all, I think Yukon, Joey slipped into CBP mode there for a bit, so we're gonna have to work on that. Get the cobwebs out for ATC here. Yeah, look, I agree with you, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where if a Bitcoin treasury company, and yeah, I saw a tweet the other day. Someone said these are the shit coins. Maybe Predator said these are the shitcoins of the 2025 cycle. And that's probably right. I mean, that's fine because the point of the shitcoin is to get more Bitcoin. Ultimately, you sell the shitcoin for more Bitcoin. Really, people, that's just what it is. So, the higher these things rip, then you sell the equity for an extremely high premium, and you buy more Bitcoin. I think if you look at MetaPlanet, their MNAV, their premium over their Bitcoin, has been ludicrously high for a year plus now. So there's plenty of investors in Japan that missed out on MetaPlanet because they said, oh, the premium's way too high. Well, you know what? The premium was a strength because ultimately they were able to buy a ton of Bitcoin for it. So that's amazing. The other thing I think I want to get into, well, two things. Number one, Yukon, I don't think it matters that they have no other business. Like MicroStrategy, yeah, you're totally right. MicroStrategy software is fucking terrible. No one gives a shit about that. And it doesn't matter. It has not mattered ever since they bought their first Bitcoin. It has not mattered. So it will continue not mattering. Except when Saylor randomly says, "Oh, we're gonna be a Lightning Network company." It's like, no, you're fucking not.
How'd that go? Where'd that go?
That lasted 1 second. All right, that was so stupid. But the other thing is that they're selling these preferred shares. That's the new meta in Bitcoin treasury companies. Sell preferred. It's interesting. I don't know how big the market is, but I do think the philosophical concept's interesting. MicroStrategy is selling debt. They're calling it, it's preferred equity, whatever. They're selling it for 10% annually. Huge dividend. That is like junky junk triple C high yield bonds that are terrible, that are on the verge of bankruptcy type levels. And he's willing to pay that because the trade-off that they're making is that they think 10% in perpetuity in fiat starting in 2025 is going to be worth so much less than Bitcoin long term. I think that's a fascinating play. I don't buy the whole like we're creating a yield curve stuff, but the concept of paying a massive dividend now because it's going to be worthless fiat later, very fascinating, and all the power to Saylor for that.
Look, you got on Joey. I've got to get on you. This show is supposed to be quick hits. It's supposed to be fast paced. It's get your take in and get out. The only thing I took from what you just said, panelist, is that companies don't need to have a business behind what they're doing. Maybe it's a boomer move on my part to think that a company should make its money on products that it creates and sells. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Hey, what's been doing better, Block or MicroStrategy?
I know. It's hard. It's hard for people to get their heads around that. Anyway, let's go to what's the next topic? Do we have a third topic? We didn't really agree on one before we started recording here.
We're already at 17 and a half minutes. I say we just try to wrap it up with some quick takeaways here.
Okay. Final words. We'll start with you, panelist.
Look, we haven't gotten rate cuts in 2025 and Bitcoin's ripping. So we're gonna be fine. We got some finally.
Corn.
We're either going to end this year over 200 or under 100.
I think that's right. Yeah. 200 tomorrow, 100 today. I would also point out there's a war overseas. No one seems to care. Bitcoin's at an all-time high. Jerome Powell talking about resigning. And, the only thing that would, I think, make him resign is if he was in the missing minute of the Epstein tape. But otherwise, I feel like he's probably going to stay on.
Do you think he is? Is that what
I don't know. Listen, we're getting out of here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week for episode 2. Until next time, take care of yourselves.